there's so much. There's so much about the Dharma, and we'll often use the metaphor of holding something up to the light and looking at it from a number of different angles. Yeah? So often we want to just rush through. Okay, got it. Well, let's move on. I get it. I know what that first noble. I know about that suffering thing. And we do. Of course, we do. But there's so many different angles on it, and the Buddha also held that light of dukkha up to us in a number of ways. He said, no, we really need to see this condition. Yes. We want to get beyond it. We want to release stress. We want to release our mental distress and suffering. But in order to do that, we have to see it and feel it more clearly. We need to see the condition. Part of the conditions that we're born into, that we're conditioned into, that's part of our wiring. And so we're going to hold that up to the light in a couple different ways more this week. And this morning, I want to say a few words about one of the angles on dukkha, on dissatisfaction or stress. Susan mentioned the word last week in Pali, viparinama, which is the suffering that is there for us, the distress that's there, because of the radical changing nature of experience. Because things don't stay. Because the things we want to stay don't stay. The good news is the things that we don't want to stay also tend to not stay. Have there been any sensations or thoughts or feelings or mind states that have stayed in your experience? Don't they all? Isn't it all kind of a moving, kind of a kaleidoscopic moving experience in there? Is an experience changing all the time? Well, we know it is. We know it is. We know that so. But isn't it poignant? First of all, we have to look at the poignancy of this, that we are, there's a field of tremendous impermanence in here, in our experience, out there and in here. And yet, we're wired to try to cobble together some bits of that impermanent experience. And maybe we can hold it in place, or maybe we can keep it around. And maybe that's how we'll become more content or more deeply at home. And the Buddha said, yeah, I get that, but there's a certain futility baked into that too. Because no matter what, it sands through the hourglass. No matter what, it's impermanent. No matter what, it's going to all slip through our fingers. No matter what, it's a sandcastle that we're building. And in order to find the deeper peace that we're looking for, we must make a relationship with the poignancy of that. And even the mourning of that, like, oh my goodness, is this really the way it is? I mean, our tendency is to not make a more full relationship with that impermanence. We'd rather not. And the Buddha said, yeah, I know that. I know you'd rather not. The whole world would rather not. But the whole world's on fire. And part of the reason it's on fire is it's continuing to try to rearrange the deck furniture on the Titanic. But not seeing that, of course, there's something poignant and ultimately not possible. Of course, we'll keep arranging, but we need to rearrange with a certain, with another perspective. You've heard us say this before. The William Blake stanza, which is my favorite. They who bind to themselves a joy do the winged life destroy, but they who kiss the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. I'm going to say that again. They who bind to themselves a joy do the winged life destroy, but they who kiss the joy as it flies live in eternity's sunrise. And it's a very Buddhist thing. It's not that, we can't change the underpinning, the basic structure of experience, which is that things are always changing. Nothing is staying still, even for a moment. But we can learn to make a relationship with that truth, but only after we make a more full relationship with the absolute reality of it. And we tend not to do that. And so we're going to meditate this morning with that in mind. With that in mind, to simply pay more attention on the spot, not just in some general reflective, cognitive way. Oh, all things must pass. George Harrison, I hear that beautiful song in my head. We know that. But really, let's look and see if there's anything that isn't moving inside here. We really need to see the elusiveness of this and the poignancy of this. The poignancy of, oh, I want that to go away. I want this to stay. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's essentially a groundless situation in there. It's a constantly kaleidoscopic changing situation in there. We haven't wanted to make a relationship with the changing nature of it. We've wanted to go, okay, I kind of see it's changing, but how can I keep this? How can I keep this away? How can I keep this here? How can I, right? How can I do that? You can't do that. We can't do that. That's one of the hardest pieces to let in, that nothing here will stay. No matter how hard we try, we can't stop the music of that changing experience. We can, and we'll be spending lots of time on this too. Ultimately, the Four Noble Truths are deeply optimistic. It says we can make a different relationship with some of the basic underpinnings of existence, primarily with this notion of impermanence. But first, we have to allow ourselves to enter it more fully, to touch into it, to see it deeply. The Buddha said that's the most important thing to see deeply. Not because it will make us just more sad or more nihilistic or more despairing, but because it's also the gateway to the kind of deeper contentment that we're looking for. But first, we have to not turn away from this truth. You see? First, we have to notice it more clearly in our own experience, not because somebody else says so. Yeah. So we're going to look and see, is there anything changing in here? The Buddha said, if you just keep being mindful, you'll start to see this. And actually, our experience is this: we won't. We won't unless we turn our attention in meditation specifically to this, because we're so attached to content, the various contents of our mind, that we're less inclined to just look, never mind the content. Just notice how one thing after another is changing every second. Just step back and begin to notice that. It's not something that we naturally do in our meditation practice. We're more like arranging contents. Okay, I see this. And I hear this story. But we're not going, forget the story, changing. Let me see, is that true? Is it changing? That's what we're going to do this morning, okay?